Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we are back to working over here on the Tally Ho Capstan project, and hopefully today what we're going to accomplish is getting the chain Gypsy, which is this stainless steel 2/2 part, mounted and affixed into the drum here, the windlass drum that goes on the capstan. I also want to get the big bronze gear that's going to go in the bottom, also mounted in here as well. So previously we have already come in here and drilled out and tapped the holes for the bolts that will hold the chain Gypsy in place. I'd still need to drill and ream out the pin locations for the gear. We're going to do that after we get this other piece installed. But the first step I need to do before I do anything else is we need to get these parts prepped. So it's not just as simple as just bolting it in place. We are going to be using some Loctite products to actually help kind of hold all this together. There's two different products we're going to be using. One of them is a bedding compound. Basically, it's kind of a plastic metal type material that we'll be putting in here. And because the surface in here, this is being a cast iron piece, we machined out an area, but it's not a perfectly mating surface in here. There are some places where the casting has some irregularities in it. I want to put some filler in those areas so that when we clamp all this together, we have 100% contact all the way around. Also the same thing up here on the gear. We'll also be using some Loctite material kind of in this round area that's going to be mating up in there. It's basically the same type of green Loctite like you would use if you were just putting Loctite on a bolt or something like that. This particular product though is made for these materials and kind of being used in an oily, greasy type setting. So two different products. But the first thing that we have to do before we can do anything else is we have to prep these surfaces for those materials. According to the instructions, particularly for that bedding compound that we're going to be using. And I'll give you some more details on exactly what product it is here in a minute. I'll have to get it over here to look. But according to the instructions, they want these surfaces that we're going to be putting it on to have a little bit of bite to them. And they recommend one of two different methods. You can either use a sandblaster to blast it and actually put that surface on there, or you can use a grinder just kind of to rough it up. So because I can't really get a grinder in here, which that'd be the easiest thing to do, what I think I'm going to do is just take this whole piece off right here. I have a blasting cabinet here in the shop. We're going to go in here and I'm basically just going to sandblast these areas where this mating surfaces will go. And we'll also go ahead and sandblast the parts, that at least in the areas, the mating areas, so that they can all go together. And once that's done, we're going to have to do a very thorough cleaning job on this to first off, remove any oil or anything like that, but also just get a really nice clean surface. I actually got some Loctite cleaner that we'll be doing. It's going to be a two-step process. They recommend just using a good degreaser first and then use their cleaner second to get it good and clean. And then we'll be able to come in here, put everything back together, hopefully, and put the bolts in and move on. So that's kind of my game plan. I'm going to pull this off. It's not very easy for me to show you guys the blasting process. My blasting cabinet is not where I can get a camera to it very easily, and you really can't see much of what's going on anyway. So I'm just going to take this off, take it to my blasting cabinet, go ahead and get that part done, and then we'll come back and kind of show you guys where we are. I think what I'll do first is kind of show you these surfaces before, and you can see after what they look like. So first off, this is the area where the chain Gypsy is going to go into. And you can see we did get in here with the lathe and clean this up, but there are some areas like right here where it didn't clean up totally. And all throughout this, there's just some little holidays and voids in there. That's where we want to put that plastic or metal filler in, that bedding material, to make sure we have good solid contact in there. And again, this back area, we got an area in here that's kind of a holiday, but this machine surface here matches pretty much perfectly with the diameter that's on the other parts. We're just going to use that Loctite material on that. So you can kind of see the surface there. It is a kind of a machine surface from the lathe, but we're going to be roughening that up. And let me show you the top section as well, where the gear is going to go. Now up here, we got more of a nice uniform section where there's only a couple places. Like right here, there's a little void, I think, that the gear will come in contact to. There's also a couple of little voids back here in the back on this casting where it didn't quite clean up, but we've got this pretty well cleaned up in here, but still, I think that bedding material is going to help just kind of make sure we got 100% contact in all areas in here. So I'm going to get this taken off. We're going to go get this roughened up and all ready for our material to go in here. Also, just let you take a look at this surface. This is the actual Gypsy part that was machined. This is just, again, a machine surface that was done on a lathe. And we're going to be getting that just roughened up a little bit so that that material will bite it and stick to it and hold it in place. All right, we are back from sandblasting. Like I said, we just took it to the blasting cabinet and put a little texture in there. I think that's got a little bite to it now. I think that that'll really help that Loctite material kind of grip that and hold it in place a little bit better. So basically just concentrated inside this area and then also in the top area and the areas that we'll be putting the pieces, and also blasted these pieces so that there's a little bit of a texture on those as well. So between all that, I think we are ready. So now what I need to do is give these things a good cleaning. I'm going to just start by wiping them down to make sure I got all the sandblasting dust off of them. I blew them down with the air hose, but I can tell they're still a little dusty. Then I'm going to get a degreaser, degrease them, and then use the Loctite cleaner before we start putting them back together. I'm just going to start here by a wipe down without any cleaner or anything, just to make sure we got everything out of there. All right, now I'm going to hit it with my degreaser. And we'll wipe all this down. The degreaser I'm using is a product called Black Max. And I have been real happy with it in the past. It's a kind of an industrial strength degreaser, but it's done a really good job cleaning up old machines and stuff. And I'm gonna let this kind of dry, I think, before we go on to the next step, but that is cleaning up nicely. All right, I've given that time to kind of dry a little bit. Now we're gonna be using this Loctite Pro Strength Parts Cleaner. You can't see it, but it's a SF7611. And this is what was recommended for that particular product that we're using. And it says to basically to shake well, spray liberally to all parts to be cleaned, allow to air dry, and wipe with a soft cloth. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to get in here and spray it down liberally, and we'll let this dry and then wipe it down. So I'm ready to mix up my bedding material. We're using, again, Loctite product. This is EA3471 steel putty epoxy resin, steel filled metal repair. Now, according to instructions, we mix this 2.5 parts to 1 part hardener by volume. We're not going to need a whole bunch. It came with a little mixer here. I've just got something here to mix it up on. So we're going to be getting all this pulled out and ready to go, and then we'll go there and apply it, put our parts together. I will also mention that on the center part, we're going to be using this Loctite 603 retaining compound. That'll be where the bore of that part meets up to the area that we turned on the inside diameter, but on the top and the bottom, we'll use the retaining or the steel putty because we do have those little pockets and voids in there. So let me get this mixed up, and we'll be back. All right, we're going to come in here, and I'm going to kind of put some of this in this areas where I can tell we got some voids that we're going to need to fill. So we're going to apply some of this green Loctite on the center hub here. And we will go ahead and kind of put this together. And I'm trying to get my holes kind of lined up in the top here. I'm just going to drop a couple of bolts in here, just kind of make sure I'm getting things aligned good. Let me grab a little hammer. All right. Now what I want to do is pull these back out. I'm going to do them one at a time, and I'm going to run a reamer down this hole, make sure we've got good contact all the way up and down, and then we'll bolt them together. And I'm going to just get this going down the hole. That was a little tight in places there. All right, I think that's got that cleaned out. I'm going to now run a bolt down it. We will use our green Loctite again on this. I forgot to put the washer behind it, so let me see if I can get that out. It's going to be aggravating. There we go. All right, I've got a little bronze washer that goes in there. And that one is in. All right, I will go around, do the same thing on all the other ones. Once we get all these bolted together, we will work on getting the gear put in place. All right, just giving a little update here. We've got all of our bolts installed. They're torqued down. We're basically just waiting for the stuff to set up down there, which it can take several hours. I probably won't do anything with that till tomorrow. Next up, I need to get the gear put in here. It's got to be bedded down again, very similar to how we did the other one. And then I've got to go drill, and we're going to be putting pins in this one. Now, on the gear, I think I'm going to do it a little bit different. First thing we're going to do is we're going to clean this thing really good again, because I did get some trash and stuff in here while I was reaming, and maybe a drop of cutting oil or something in there. I don't know, that may have dripped off the drill. We're just going to clean it for good sake. And then I'm going to mix up some more bedding compound. We're going to bed this thing in. I'm going to drop that gear in, and I'm probably just going to take some C-clamps and clamp it into place for now, and let this thing set up overnight. And then tomorrow we'll come in here and we'll drill and ream the pins that's going to lock that in place after it has kind of set up. So that's kind of my game plan there. There's no screws on that holding. It's just going to be pinned in place. So I just want to clamp it in place and let it set up before we go any further on that. So let me get this cleaned up, and we'll drop the gear in there. Got my bedding compound here again. We're going to go around and make sure we got this in here. I'm going to put a layer all the way around here, but I'm starting where I know I've got some of these little voids. Make sure we get some in those. I'm going to use this little plier here to just kind of go around this whole thing. All right, I like that. All right, we're going to let this thing set up overnight, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll put our pins in place. And I think we'll have our Gypsy and our gear installed. Coming along nice. So we got our gear mounted in here now, and what I need to do is we need to come in and drill and ream some holes that we'll be putting some pins in here. This is going to pin the bronze gear into the casting and basically prevent it from twisting inside here. There's 6 of these pins that we need to lay out. Now, according to the blueprints and engineering work that I got from Dave, he says that he wants these pins to be no closer than 1/4 of an inch to the root of the bottom of these gear teeth. So what I want to do is I need to figure out what the radius is I need to put in here. So I'm just going to take my calipers. I got them kind of marked at 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to mark a couple of them there. And I'm going to take a little Sharpie pen, and that's just kind of, that hole needs to be drilled where the inside of it is at least right in here. Now, I can be closer to this front edge, but he doesn't want them closer to the root or the bottom of the tooth, just for strength, to make sure they don't strip out or anything. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. We'll kind of figure out where the center of these holes need to be. And I'm going to basically just, same as before, use a little compass. I got my little centerpiece in here. We'll scribe a circle in there, and we're going to drill the 6 holes. And the layout on them, you know, we want them to be approximately the same distance apart, but it's not a critical thing by any means. These are just pins to keep them from rotating. So, all right, let me go ahead and kind of get this figured out, and we'll come back and get this drilled and reamed. To scribe the circle again, I got my trammel point set up here on a beam, and I've just got a pencil, and I'm just going to scribe a circle all the way around. This is a circle that's going to be where the center of the hole needs to be. And again, it doesn't have to be precise, but that gives us something to work on. Now, I need to lay out my holes. So my first hole, I got basically 2 pins that are going to come in, one here for my little ratcheting mechanism. I want to basically just try to shoot roughly halfway in between those, and I'm just going to go straight across. So we'll lay out those 2 holes. Actually, you know what? I think, well, it's not going to work out. I was going to try to put it in the center of this tooth, but the center of that tooth is in the bottom of this tooth. So I think that's actually better, kind of splitting the difference between them and get that hole as far away from the bottom of that as we can. And I got this set to 60 degrees, and I'm just gonna just kind of roughly, again, this doesn't have to be just perfectly on, but we want to get it, you know, fairly close. So that's about 60 degrees right there. And where did I put my Sharpie at? All right, we'll mark that one. Mark that one. And we'll come around here and do this again. That's about where it needs to be right there. All right, that'll be close enough. Now I'm just going to take a center punch here. Give you a little dimple on each one of these. All right, we're going to get our drill bit set up over that little center punch mark. Lock it down. Now I've got a 27/64 drill bit. This is one size under 7/16. I'm going to drill it out to this size, and then we'll run a reamer down there to get it to the final size for the pin to go into. So I think we're ready to go ahead and drill these out. So I'm just going to let my power feed do the work here. And we're just going to let that drill, we're going to go all the way through the bronze and through the cast iron casting on the bottom. So let's go ahead and let that drill on through. All right, I think we are all the way through. I'll take out my drill bit, put in a reamer here, and we will ream this hole to its final size. The reamer gives us a very precision hole diameter. Hang on a minute, let me look at this. All right, here we go. We'll just run that all the way down through there. And there we go. First hole drilled, 5 more to go. I've got my 6 holes drilled and reamed. I do want to just go in here and just real quickly, just lightly deburr each one of these holes, and I'm just using a hand drill. All right, that just finishes that hole off a little bit. I'm going to take my pin, put this in the freezer, froze it, got it cold. That just shrinks it up a little bit, makes for these press fits go a little bit easier in my experience. Open this up. I've got some Loctite 603 retaining compound. This is just a little bit of glue to kind of hold this thing in here. And we'll put a little bit in that hole. All right. Up underneath the bottom. I want that to be kind of flush. It's going to be a little bit recessed in the bottom here, but I want it to be flush with the top. Let me grab a little bit better hammer here. Well, that may be as far as it goes. That'll be good. It's more or less flush with the top. All right, we're going to do the same thing on the other ones. And once that's done, we should have this thing pinned in place. Grab the next pin. All right, I think we've got all of our pins in place. And I think we've pretty well got this. We've still got to get our little dogs mounted in here, but I got to make some parts for that. That's coming up later on, but I'm going to get this cleaned up. I think it's ready to come off of the drill over here. And the last thing I think I want to get done here is I want to get this adapter flange mounted over here onto the base. And I've got everything cleaned up. I've got some bedding compound mixed up here, same stuff we used before. I'm going to be putting a good bit of this down here in these areas where all this kind of comes together, so that we make sure we have really good contact in here. And we'll go ahead and tighten all this up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and kind of drop this down in place. And let me get my bolts. I'm going to go ahead and tighten it all together. Now, these bolts that I'm putting in here, these are not the final bolts that we'll be using, but they will be good enough to kind of clamp it all together and tighten it up. I'll be pulling these out. We got some longer bolts that are actually going to be custom made bolts that's going to be sent over from David in the UK. That the actual flange that mounts to this flange will attach to. So those are not here yet. I don't have all those pieces yet, but when they get here, we will put them all together. So let me get these tightened up and snug down. All right, I like it. I'm gonna go around these and see if I can clean up some of that stuff around the sides here and get the excess out. All right, we'll let all this set up. I think we got it. Well, guys, I think that's going to be a wrap on this video. We've got our gear mounted, we got the Gypsy mounted, we got the adapter flange mounted, everything's bedded in place, everything's bolted and pinned into place. It needs to be done. Good progress. I'm glad to have this behind me. This is honestly, it was a little bit nerve-wracking getting all this done, because a lot of this stuff, I kind of had one shot to get it right, particularly with the bedding compound in there. If something didn't go right and I had to take it all back apart and clean it up, it was going to be a mess. But fortunately, we didn't have any issues. So I'm happy with the results. Everything is to the design that Dave Webster has put together, the engineer that's working with us on here. So, I'm just going exactly by his instructions, and I think we've been able to nail it so far on everything we've got. So as I mentioned before, on this capstan drum, we still need to drill and put a couple of pins in here for the dogs. That's going to be coming up in another video here pretty soon. And I think the next really big step is getting the capstan cap that was cast over at Windy Hill Foundry. We had to have a new cap made for this because the original one had broken. It was broken when we got it, and we broke it even worse when we took it all apart. But we got a brand new casting. We're gonna have to do the machining on that. And once that's done, paint it, and I think it's pretty well done. I'm still waiting on some parts to come in from the UK to finish assembly, but I shouldn't have any work to do other than putting that all together when it gets here. So we are making good progress. Very happy with how things are going. This capstan project is coming along nice. It's been a big project, but it's been a lot of fun. Guys, with that, that's going to be a wrap. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. It really helps out with the algorithms on YouTube, helps my channel get discovered by other people. So if you could take the time to do both of those, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, big, huge thank you to the supporters of the site who support by subscribing, number one. And also, if you can pitch in a little bit financially, that helps out as well around here. It enables me to be able to take the time to shoot the videos and publish the videos and edit the videos and everything that goes along with that, which doubles the amount of time it takes me to do anything in the shop. If you want to help out with that, there's descriptions down in there's links down in the description below for both PayPal as well as Patreon, where you can make contributions and help support the site here. And that, again, is greatly appreciated. And with that, guys, we're going to sign off. We'll catch you on the next video again. Thanks for watching.